Welcome, everyone. We're super excited to get everyone together. We're super excited to have our first hybrid event, so both in person and virtual. So those here and those actually everywhere, not just in California, but others from out of state, are all going to benefit from the content that we prepared here today. I'll get everyone oriented. I'm Justin Barlow. I helped organize this. So if you do like the event, then please thank our planning committee because they did most of the work. If you don't like it, then let me know. I'll take the blame. We're pretty much ready to go. So I'll turn things over to Matt and we'll jump in.
You see, I'm all wired up here, so. Right, does that come through okay? Can you all hear me towards the back? Good? All right. So I'm Matt Jensen. I am a senior manager with the Coker Group. We are a healthcare strategy consulting firm. Do a little bit of everything from healthcare IT to coding and compliance to financial and operations advisory and strategy, executive search. So my background is in business valuation and physician and provider compensation arrangements. And that sort of stuff. So buckle in, because we've got the exciting topic to go over for the next hour or hour and 15 minutes on changing fee schedules and how to prepare for those. So I'm going to talk just briefly about IPS and OPS. So area of expertise, but our coding and compliance team coached me a little bit along the way. So I've got some information for you there. Go over a little bit on, and then the physician fee schedule and how that affect us going forward. Before I get into changes in the fee schedule, I did want to make a note on a couple things related to the sequester. Back in 2011, the Budget Control Act set in a 2% across the board cut, and that included Medicare. With the 2021 and 2020 COVID bills, there was a moratorium put in place on the 2% sequester. That is set to expire right now. And then on top of that, with the passage of the American Rescue Act that triggers a bill from back in 2010 that is the Statutory Pay-As-You-Go Act or Pay-Go Act, that any spending passed by Congress that doesn't get offset by some sort of revenue or cuts in the future. So because the American Rescue Plan Act didn't include offsets to everything, that triggers an additional 4% cut that's supposed to take effect in January. I need to hold this up, sorry. The wonders of technology these days. Okay. Good, okay. Just not yesterday, the day before, Tuesday, the House passed a bill that would temporarily halt the 2% sequester. So that will be 0 through the first quarter of 2021. And then it will be just 1% in the second quarter, or sorry, of 2022. Then 1% in the second quarter, and then the full 2% will go back after the end of June if it's passed in the Senate. So this is evolving, and then they would also remove the 4% pay-go, and on top of that, with the Part B Medicare physician fee schedule payments, that is set to have a reduction to the conversion factor of 3.75%, 3.75. And the bill would actually reduce that by 3% to just a 0.75% cut, which means I can scrap all the numbers in the rest of my presentation. So, well, if that goes through, but we'll still go through that. So it, like I said, that did pass the House. It was very narrowly passed, 222 to 212, I believe. And it is going to the Senate. It does have the blessing of Mitch McConnell, so it's looking more likely than not. But we'll see. Still evolving. So that could go to the Senate as early as later this week. So let me see if I can move forward here. All right, quickly through IPS and OPS here. So CMS is increasing the inpatient prospective payment system payment rates by a net of 2.5%. The key point there is for hospitals that are meaningful users of EHRs. And they did make some changes to the quality and value programs, as you can see here on the screen. So main point here is CMS finalized a measure suppression policy, which allows them to selectively ignore measures that they believe have been impacted by COVID. And so for fiscal year 2022, now this went into effect back in October, but that means that they will suppress most hospital value-based purchasing program measures, performance data from 2020 when calculating performance, and pneumonia remission measures. Also, if you didn't know, starting back on October 1, you're supposed to start reporting the percentage of your staff that are vaccinated for COVID. So for the outpatient and ASC payment systems, CMS is increasing the net payment there by 2%. They are this is a key one that may affect a lot of people, but they are halting the elimination of the IPO list. So that is being halted, and all but one or two of the services that were on that list are being added back, and the ones that were removed in 2021. And then there are, under the quality reporting program, there's 3 new measures there that are being added. Sorry, I'm kind of faced this way, holding the mic and and going back and forth here. I do believe that the panel later on is going to be talking a little bit more about this the IPO list. So more to come on that piece. 2022. There are specific, but and again, sorry, this isn't an area of my compliance team. Gave me some pointers on this, but in addition to just critical care, there's more there that than just critical care. What this piece that, from my understanding, is, and hope the panel will talk a little about this as well, but the opportunity, it opens up opportunity be for more services to be built. But does apply some limitations on what APP can get billed. So typically an APP historically billed under the physician, and it would have been for Medicare anyway, reimbursed at 100% of the schedule. Now under split shared services, the APP will bill separately, but it will be reimbursed at 85%. And there are some important points on the shared split billing. Document shared billing date stamp for both providers. The physician gets 100%. If it's billed to Medicare, the APP will get 85%. That's my understanding. So typically the APP would bill under the physician's NPI if they are the primary on the service and get 100%. A couple other policy changes of note. The temporary telehealth services list has been extended through the end of calendar year 2023. That's important. Therapy services for therapy and occupational therapy assistants, they can be reimbursed under the fee schedule with, you need to append modifier CQ or CO, and they'll be reimbursed at 85% of the fee schedule, but that is new. Those modifiers are new this year. And then additionally, physician assistants can now be paid directly. Historically, I understand the reimbursement for their services needed to go to their employer or the independent contractor that is working with the PAs. So, couple items there. Okay. On the financial impacts of, this is where some of the rubber hits the road. Just real quickly so that we're all on the same page, I think most folks know how the reimbursement works. Under Part B, Medicare Physician Fee Services, the physician services and provider services are reimbursed via RVUs and a conversion factor applied to those RVUs. So you have work RVUs, practice expense RVUs, and malpractice RVUs, all coming together, and you'll have geographic price cost index factors that are applied based on your location, of course, but all those come together to get your total RVU, and then from there you take the CMS conversion factor multiplied by the RVUs, good, and you get the Medicare allowable reimbursement. Just so we're all on the same page when we're talking through some of the changes. Oops. Okay, so in 2021 with the fee schedule, there were some major shifts in the RVUs, especially for evaluation management codes. So, and this isn't new news, but what that essentially means is since 20% or so of the codes that are reimbursed through Medicare are E&M codes. When those went up, most other codes, there are a few codes that have decreases, but most other codes were flat on their RVUs, CPT codes. So with the Budget Neutrality Act requiring that Medicare payments are essentially neutral year over year. That means that the conversion factor on the RVUs was set to go down by 10%. So late December of 2020, Congress passed a bill, of course, to negate some of that decrease. But still, the Medicare conversion factor went from 3609 to 3489. So it was a cut of 3.3%. For this year, it's expected to go down another 3.7%. Now, like I said at the beginning of the presentation, that may be changing, and it may only decrease 0.75%. But this has huge impacts on the amount of reimbursement that's being paid out to many physician specialties. So again, if the full 3.7% for 2022 goes through, that would mean a full 6.9% decrease from 2020 reimbursement. And then, of course, layering on sequester and pay-go, if those stick around, we're looking at almost 10% cut from just last year, plus the 3.3% from the year prior. So big cuts for reimbursement. So how does it really flow through? So if we look at a couple example CPT codes here, for 2020, we're looking at primary care and specialty care, a couple of codes here. Can I? Sorry for everybody who's watching virtually. All the back and forth there. Hopefully we'll get this figured out for the next presentation. Okay, so so we're looking at CPT code 99213, established patient E&M. Some more changes. No, we're good.
I'm sorry.
We tried. All right, maybe if I just hold them. So 913 was 0.97 work RVUs. We're looking at just the work RVU piece. Many physicians, if I put it on my ear, put it on my nose. Many physicians, of course, have contracts or employment arrangements. In 2020, 99213, 0.97 RVUs. In 2021, that went up to 1.3. So that's a 30% increase in the work RVU value for that particular code. In 2022, we're still at the same work RVU value, just the conversion factor comes down. For this code, the reimbursement is up 30%, still up almost 25% in 2022. For specialty care, though, you'll see 29280 at 0.39. It stays the same at 0.39 in 2021, and just the reduction in the conversion factor comes through on that, both in 2021 and 2020. So specialty care, or any procedural specialty, rather than the cognitive or primary care specialty, any primarily procedural-based specialty is going to be hit by the reduction in the conversion factor and not see the benefit of the increase in E&Ms as much anyway. So here's a few examples. You've got some, new patient office visits, established patient office visits, and then a few non-E&M codes. We're looking at like the 44950 is an appendectomy. Your 27130 you've got there is a toe hip arthroplasty, and your 220 is a toe kind of a thing. So you'll see some of those E&M codes, especially plastic surgery, saw some cuts. There are a few specialties that did see some reductions in work RVU values so there wasn't a huge amount of codes that saw reductions, a handful though. But so the E&Ms, you can see what does, and then here's kind of a quick recap. This is from the AMA on their the one. To final rule, but sorry, gotta keep this closer. But this was rough impact based proposed rule the AMA released. So you can see how that impacts there. So I've gone over a fair amount of this, but what this really means for specialty for physicians and other providers is that especially those that are on work RVU based models, some of them are going to be very primary care. If your compensation model variable change, you're going to see a huge increase in your work RVU values multiplied by the same variable. So for the same amount of work, you would see a large increase in compensation. And of course, your proceduralists are not going to be as happy. I want to talk just real quick about disconnected economics in healthcare here. So we see this really coming through over the last several years. You can see the dotted line is pre-2020. We've seen, and this is an MGMA composite for physicians and their compensation per work RVU. We've seen 0.4% over the last 5 years increase, where Medicare factor has been flat. And so you see compensation rising, reimbursement. Now, this doesn't speak to commercial reimbursement necessarily, but a lot of commercial payers are based on some form of percentage of Medicare. Flat reimbursement, and we're getting very disconnected economics there. And then this for me in the fair market value space. Do I need to hold these apart? Okay, sorry. I'm getting cues from the back here. Sorry, guys. Maybe if I stand over on this side, does that help at all? Away from some of the other mics. So I work a lot in survey data and look at compensation figures in MGMA, AMGA, Sullivan-Cotter surveys. I'm using those all the time. So for anyone who deals with provider compensation arrangements, you'll be very familiar with those. What we're seeing is a couple things. One, COVID is greatly impacting the surveys. And two, with the changes in the fee schedules, there's going to be continued impact over the next several years. And I left my pointer here. So that plays an impact on how we look at compensation arrangements going forward. A lot of people have compensation arrangements based on current year MGMA median per work RVO, or 60th or 75th percentile comp per work RVO. Those aren't going to be necessarily relevant over the next few years. Maybe I have to stay over here. Sorry, guys. So another example, just real quick, on kind of those economics, and especially if you keep with looking at 2020, 2021 survey data for provider compensation arrangements. This is an example on family medicine. You can see for the past several years, compensation is the bottom, darker blue line. Collections is the top. They are, the gap between compensation and collections is narrowing, and especially with the 21 fee schedule, compensation, if you keep variables the same, would go up 15%, but collections is only increasing 10%. So it's just squeezing some of those margins there. Same happens orthopedic surgery. This is a great example because, oops, too far. Okay. Oh, perfect. Yeah, I'll just say next slide. How about that? And maybe if I come over here, that'd be better. So orthopedic surgery, we can see, you know, it's even more drastic there, and I think a lot of you are probably feeling that in your margins. So you can see compensation based on survey data anyway has actually remained relatively flat for orthopedic surgeons, but they've seen a big decrease in revenue. So let's go to the next slide. So here is an example that I can walk you through real quick on how this in practice. So if we go back to say 20 fee schedule, the current total cash compensation for this particular example physician is $250,000. Assumed work RVUs of 463. This is an actual real example too that we pulled out. But going forward, the 2021 and 2022 schedules, keeping total cash compensation the same, previously they're going to be now making 5,200, 5,300 work RVUs. So that affects, you can see the impact on the TCC per work RVU. It goes from 56 down to 47 and a half. If you float in the change in collections for this particular specialty, it was a primary care specialty. When we looked at the change in the different fee schedules, if we say, okay, they're getting 10% increase in reimbursement, we'll also give them a 10% increase in compensation. That would bring the TCC per work RVU up to 52, but that's still not back to where it was under the 2020 fee schedule. So yeah, increase of 18% in work reviews, 10% in reimbursement. So when you go to for your provider compensation plans, if you are moving them to 2021, 2022 work RVU values, you got to take this into account because there's going to be a big disconnect on the survey data. Can we go to the next slide? So next one. So what do we do with this? So we, Coker Group's a consulting firm. We don't normally tell people to proceed slowly. We like fast change and helping people make change. But with changes in the fee schedules, we are actually cautioning folks to take it slow. And the 2020 fee schedules as long as possible until you've done some impact analyses internally or gotten some help to run through those analyses. So let's go to the next slide, actually. I think we've got, yeah, so continue using 2020 fee schedules. And yeah, really try to minimize the economic impact there. And then let's go to the next slide. Another thing we hospitals and health systems to do is really review their contract language. So here in California, of course, you won't, with being corporate practice of medicine, most of your physician arrangements are going to be through PSAs rather than employment. You have PSA arrangements are predicated on work RVU values. Then you want to make sure that your language doesn't lock you into using the current year RVU schedule, but that you can have some more flexibility. So some examples of language that you might see that locks you in here versus some that provides you a little bit more flexibility. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, perfect. So we've got a few case studies here. I believe this one, yeah, this is an employed primary care example. So this is actual data that we've seen with some of our clients. A primary care practice in the Southeast. They are anticipating a 28% increase in work RVUs. So you can see average work RVU values in 2020 versus under the 2021 and 22 fee schedules. However, their collections are going to go up less than 10%. I believe, yeah, 8.5% here. And then if you take in the full 3.7% cut coming up this year, it would go down to just a 4.8% increase in collections. But we'll see what actually happens with that. So because there's not a one-to-one increase in RVU values and collections, if the historical rate was $49 per work RVU that they were getting paid, you would need to adjust that to around $40 to account for both the change in work RVUs and the change in collections. If you go to the next slide, we've got another example. This is a cardiology PSA example. Same thing going on here. Historical rate was 59. You would need to adjust it down to about 52. If we go to the next slide. And then just a third example here. So some considerations, though, is that this is going to impact how you look at survey data if you rely on survey data for setting some of those RVU values. Let's go to the next slide real quick. So here's an example of how we have advised clients in adjusting survey data to for these changes. So essentially, you take the survey data, adjust it, you multiply it by 1 divided by 1 plus the change in RVUs, gets you the adjustment for work RVUs. Now, if you stop there, that will get you back to what you would be under the 2020 fee schedule. If you don't float through any of the increases in collections. Now, that would somewhat negate the whole purpose of CMS changing the RVU values and trying to increase payments to the primary care and cognitive type specialties. So what we then do is we multiply the work RVU adjusted survey data by the change in collections and get you the adjusted collections. Yes, question? So the collections rate, what we do is we actually take claims level detail for the physicians. We'll take a 12-month period of claims level detail and run what the Medicare allowable would be under 2020 fee schedule and under 2021. Yeah, oh, sorry. So the question was, how did we arrive at the 4.9% increase in collections under this scenario? So how we arrived at that is we take the claims data, we run it under both scenarios. We look at then what the percentage of Medicare is and multiply that by the allowable. Right now we're advising, we don't know what commercial payers are doing or how soon they will follow. So we're just looking at these changes floating through on Medicare, the Medicare portion of collections. But we simply just run it under both scenarios and get what the expected changes would be. Yep. Did I see another hand up? We'll get to some more questions here in a bit, but so that's how we adjust survey data. But if you look at where the median comp per work RVU was up there at 5602, under the adjusted survey data, the prior median is now the 67th percentile. So the old median is the new 67th percentile, roughly. Can we go to the next slide? So when reviewing work RVUs and collections, start with current production. Take claims level data, historic claims level data, run it through the fee schedules, and analyze what the impact is there. And then identify where, so you compare the historical amounts under the fee schedules and identify where changes can be made. Generally to either base salary, the total cash compensation, or comp per work RVU. Go to the next slide. So just kind of wrapping up, and then we'll get to some questions and answers. But you know, the fee schedule, the RVU values anyway, and conversion factor have been relatively stable over the last decade. But with the changes in E&Ms, especially, and other changes, you know, we're going through significant impacts that we're talking about here. And so it's imperative that you understand how those impacts are going to you know, impact the bottom line, and you don't want to get your margins squeezed any more than they already are. I know it can be difficult there. So hopefully this kind of shows you a few examples of how we have been advising clients on how to go about navigating these changes in the Medicare physician fee schedule, and hopefully that was helpful. Let's go to the next slide. So I'll open it up to Q&A. I know we're good on time. Okay, perfect. Yes. Yes.
In shared services, physicians,
Yeah, here. Can I actually just bring this to you? That'd be great. Then I won't have to repeat it all.
So with regards to your question about shared services, whether to bill under the PA or under the physician's NPI number, you can only bill for one of the providers. So if you're billing under the physician and it's a shared service, in 2022, the physician has to do the entirety of one of three: the HPI, the exam, or the medical decision making. So a lot of physician groups are trying to figure out right now how they want to bill for shared services. If the physician does not do any of those three components, then you bill under the nurse practitioner or the PA's NPI number, which would be reimbursed at 85% of the physician fee schedule.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Jenna Redsinger. I'm actually a healthcare litigator. A lot of people don't know the changes to split share and the changes to critical care actually were a reaction not just to the petition that was submitted to the federal government under the good guidance rules, but it also stemmed from a key TAM against Team Health that settled in the Eastern District of Texas at the beginning of the year. And so at issue in that case was very much, what the documentation reflected with respect to the allegations that the claims that were being submitted were for the physicians, right? When actually the NPs were the ones providing the services, as well as critical care services that were being billed actually medically necessary. So the documentation, especially right now, until there's the transition, right now in terms of what documentation needs to be. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Any other questions? I know we've got a lot of rev cycle folks here in the room, so hopefully you were able to glean something out of this. Not on the provider reimbursement. Okay. All right, thanks. Well, that's if you go to the next slide, just real quick. If you need my contact info is on the screen there. And these slides, I believe, are posted on the meeting site for today. So happy to answer any questions.